Somewhere on the shores of the Sea of Azov, nearly 2,000 years ago, a Greek stonemason carved a name into a tombstone. A name that sounded like Horuathos. No one living there was Slavic. No one had ever heard of the Balkans. And yet, that name may be the first trace of a people who wouldn't arrive in Croatia for another 400 years. So who were the Croats, really, before they were Croats? The textbook version is simple. In the early 7th century AD, Slavic tribes swept south out of the Carpathian region, crossing into the Roman province of Dalmatia. Among them, a group the Byzantines would later call the Croats. They settled among the ruins of Roman cities, intermarried with the surviving Illyrian and Romanized population, and by the 9th century had built the foundations of a kingdom. That kingdom had a name attached to it, Tomislav. Crowned around 925 AD, he's remembered as the first king of Croatia, the ruler who united the Dalmatian and Pannonian duchies and held off both Hungarian and Bulgarian armies to keep that kingdom intact. But here's the problem. Almost nothing about Tomislav survives firsthand. No contemporary portrait, no confirmed birth date. Most of what we know comes from Chronicles written more than a century after he died. Some historians even question details of his reign that we take for granted. Which means the founding king of Croatia is, in a real sense, a DNA mystery of his own, a name attached to a kingdom with almost no biological trace left to check it against. No remains of Tomislav have ever been found, so there's no sample to actually test. But hypothetically, if we extrapolate from what modern genetics tells us about the population he ruled, his own lineage was almost certainly part of that same layered picture we're about to break down. A Slavic ruling line, quite possibly carrying the Dinaric substrate of the Illyrians his kingdom absorbed, and, if the elite origin theory holds, maybe even a thread back to that Sarmatian warrior aristocracy whose name his people inherited. The king who founded Croatia would, in that sense, have carried Croatia's entire origin mystery in a single bloodline. If you pushed genealogists for a best guess, most would point to R1A-Z280, the same dominant Slavic marker carried by the majority of Croatian men today, and the marker most consistent with a dynastic founder from Slavic tribal stock. It's the safest bet, not a certainty. But it's worth noting, Croatian noble families who trace unbroken male lines back centuries do skew toward that same marker, with I2A Dinaric showing up often enough in old regional bloodlines to keep the Illyrian absorption theory alive at the royal level too. It's a clean story. A migration, a settlement, a nation born. But historians have never been fully comfortable with it, because the name Croat itself doesn't behave like a Slavic word at all. Fast forward, or rather rewind, to the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, 500 kilometres from any Slavic homeland. In the Greek colony of Tanais, on the edge of Sarmatian territory near the Sea of Azov, archaeologists found inscriptions bearing names strikingly close to Croat. Horuathos. These weren't Slavs, this was Sarmatian and Alanic territory, Iranian-speaking horse warriors who dominated the Pontic steppe for centuries before the Slavic migrations even began. One theory, championed by historians going back to the 20th century, suggests the name, and possibly a small ruling warrior elite, didn't originate with the Slavic-speaking masses at all. Instead, an Iranian Sarmatian aristocracy may have led, named and organised an already Slavic-speaking population, only to be linguistically absorbed by the people they ruled within a few generations. It's the same pattern historians see elsewhere, a small elite imposing an identity, then vanishing into the majority they governed. The name survives, the rulers don't. So does the genetic record back any of this up? Modern Croatian Y-DNA is overwhelmingly Slavic in character, dominated by the R1A-Z280 lineage, the same marker found across Poland, Russia and Ukraine, consistent with the accepted Slavic migration story. But there's a second story layered underneath it. A significant minority of Croatian men carry I2A, sometimes called the Dinaric lineage, a marker linked to populations that were already living in the Balkans before the Slavs ever arrived. This is the genetic fingerprint of the Illyrians and other pre-Slavic Balkan peoples, absorbed rather than replaced. And then there's the trace element, small but consistently detected in regional studies, of markers associated with steppe and Sarmatian linked ancestry, more prevalent in some noble and regional lineages than in the general population. Not enough to rewrite the migration story, but enough to keep the elite origin theory alive. 3 layers, 1 people. A Slavic majority, an absorbed Illyrian substrate, and a whisper of the steppe. Zoom into the map and the picture fractures further. Coastal Dalmatia, shaped by 9 centuries of Roman and later Venetian rule, shows a stronger Mediterranean genetic signature. Inland Croatia and Slavonia lean harder into the Slavic and Dinaric mix. It's not one Croatian genome, it's a gradient, shaped by who conquered, who settled, and who stayed, region by region, century by century. The name Croat may have travelled 1,000 miles from a Sarmatian steppe to a Roman province, carried by a handful of warriors whose language disappeared before their name did. The DNA doesn't settle the debate, it complicates it, the way DNA always does. Which means the question, where did the Croats come from, doesn't have one answer. It has at least 3. An Illyrian one, a Slavic one, and maybe, just maybe, a steppe one.